Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz singer and pilot Paul Tuvman. We caught up with him in May 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown to talk about his latest 2020 CD, In My Life, a tribute to the Beatles. He grew up in a house full of good music and started playing piano at the age of 8. He learned the fundamentals and focused mostly on classical music, then moved on to standards like pop and boogie woogie. His early influences were Ray Charles, Oscar Peterson, Nat King Cole, Dave Brubeck, and the great Bill Evans. Get to know him and dig this interview.
I figure talking about music's probably a good idea right now.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So I received your CD, In My Life, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about several things that go into this release. I guess the one thing is an artistic standpoint of this release, but also it's getting released during a time period where we're in the middle of a quarantine and you can't back this up live. So kind of talk to me about these feelings in this release.
Well, I mean, this is a project that I've always wanted to do. I mean, I think, the Beatles were probably the greatest influence on my music, growing up and, as an adult. I mean, I think for all of us that grew up around that time, it's just kind of became part of our DNA. And I just have such a connection to the music. And, as somebody who's a musician and, studied songwriting and, and just the whole, just the whole art of it and process. I mean, I was just so in awe of everything that they'd done and I probably know more of their tunes than really any artist. I mean, when I sit down on the piano, I just want to play something. I mean, I've got so many Beatle tunes, that just kind of run through my head and my body. And I'm not somebody that notates music. I just usually, I'm a fairly decent reader of music, but, not great by any stretch of the imagination. I'm really a player by ear mostly. And when I just want to play something, I mean, I could just pull out so many of their tunes, and I have no idea. Obviously, these are things that, like I said, that are pretty ingrained in me. So, like I said, I wanted to do a project, like this for a long time. I've been thinking about it. And obviously the hard part was really picking, which tunes to do because there's just so many tunes to choose from. And, so I kind of laid out, I think I recorded over 20, maybe 25 tunes and we kind of had to whittle it down to, I think 12. And, it was just hard picking them. And when I decided to do this project, I contacted, Jamie Tate, who's a session drummer that played on my last project, my Riding the Jet Stream project, and he's good friends with Rick Braun, who's a good friend of mine. And I got to meet all these great players through Rick. And I told Jamie about the project that I was working on, and I know he's a great producer, and we just kind of discussed it, and that's kind of where we went with it. And, I told him the ideas. I sent him some of the demos that I had done and some of the arrangements that I had done. And then we just started putting it together, and Jamie's got such a great roster of musicians that he works with. I mean, he brought in some incredible folks for the rhythm, just for the rhythm section. And then I was fortunate enough to have all these great guest artists like, Rick Braun and Peter White and Dave Koz and Mindy Hebert and Vincent Ngala kind of join in on this project. And that's, again, when I do these things, I really don't have any intention of where they're going to go or any expectations. I just really do them for artistic value and try to put out the best music that I could possibly do. And then, whatever journey it takes from there as far as radio and where it ends up, I just kind of let it take its own course and go from there. So, and that's kind of where we're at with this thing.
But during the quarantine right now, I know people have more latitude, and it's interesting. There's such a mosaic of quotes and things that I hear from musicians, and one person mentioned there's going to be a very special place for all of these CDs that are getting released during this time. There's going to be a different value that goes into that. What do you think about that?
Well, I really didn't think about it until now. And, my mom, who's 93, and she's very, she's very sharp. And we were just talking about it the other day. I mean, she just says, how, is this going to affect, the CD? Because she's probably my biggest fan and she loves this project so much. And, when I started this project a couple of years ago and, had no idea that I was going to be just starting a promotion of it during this time, so it is, I really haven't given a whole lot of thought. I think if anything, I think people are, that they're really, I really haven't given a whole lot of thought. I think if anything, I think people are, that they're really, 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 that they're really gravitating towards music and what touches them and what affects them. And I've had some great feedback from people that have heard this project, and a lot of people are saying that they're playing it a lot, which, I'm very flattered, when they tell me that, because, like I said, I think in these times, people are really listening to a lot of music, probably more so than before, and just trying to find, I'm listening to so much music right now, and I think we're all just trying to find ways to get through the day and find some happiness in this time that we're in right now, because there's a lot of sadness, with all the people that are being affected by what's going on.
And I think there's so much talk about essential workers and about essential employees on the planet. And the one thing that I think is very important for people to understand is that if we did not have art, music, TV, film during this time, it would be really dark. I think there needs to be a more cognizant notion with our society that music isn't just kind of this frivolity that someone landed into and decided to go with. It's a real profession that is genuinely pulling people from depths of places that can be really, really, really bad.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I'm always trying to find the good out of any situation, and I think about these times and what we're enduring, and I just, I think about my dad, who passed away probably about 7 years ago. My dad was a World War II vet, and he was a gunner on a B-17, and he was shot down over France, and, the airplane was on fire, and, the airplane was falling apart, and he had to bail out, and, half the crew was lost, and he was a prisoner of war for 18 months, and I think about what he had to endure, and I think about what we are enduring during this time, and the fact that we're, staying home, but we've got all the luxuries here, and reaching out and getting a hold of people and getting caught up, and I think we're all getting caught up with our lives, and which is kind of, it's good. The economic side of this thing is devastating for so many people, but I think it's just a good time to reflect on what's important, and people are finding ways to make music and get creative and do things, and so from that standpoint, I think there's some positive signs out of this, and it's not as hard as I think a lot of us are making it out to be. So I guess I'm trying to find the good out of this, Joe.
Yeah, I dig it. I think that's really good too. I think there's a lot of things that, if you really do kind of think about things in your life that that are going on, it's all relative, and at the end of the day, I think the one thing that we all have to understand is that all of us are going through this together. It's not some myopic tunnel where it's like, oh, this is happening in America, or it's just happening on the African continent, or it's just happening in Russia. It's like, this is a unifier for every human on this planet right now. The one thing you did mention your mom, and I know you grew up in a musical household. How did these seeds of music get planted in you to become a professional musician that you are today?
I think it was just part of my DNA. It's funny. The piano didn't come into our house till I was like 8 years old, and my mom was a player, and she could only read music. She actually was just a really fine player. She's not playing anymore, but she's an incredible artist, and she still paints almost every day, and she just puts out some stuff that blows me away. I mean, like I said, she's 93 and very prolific, and so I think the artistic side was on her side, but as soon as the piano came into the house, I couldn't wait to learn how to play, and I just kind of, I took it like a fire hose. I mean, I had no problem, playing, practicing, taking lessons. I just absolutely loved it, and I got good pretty quick, and had an interesting path in terms of my musical upbringing. My first teacher, she taught me the fundamentals of music and a lot of classical, and then she died after about a year, and then my mom found my second teacher, who was really cool, and he recognized I think that I was a pretty gifted player, and he taught me a lot of boogie woogie, and this is in the early 60s, and he taught me a lot of contemporary tunes and show tunes, so it wasn't just a strict classical route. I think he wanted to make it fun, and he did. And then I kind of segued into another teacher that realized I was a good improviser, and he taught me all the blues and jazz scales, and taught me song architecture and how to listen to songs and off the radio and just kind of figure them out and play them. And so it was kind of an interesting development versus somebody that just kind of had a traditional classical upbringing and just really was reading music. There was a lot of improv and ear training, for me early on. And I got into playing in rock and roll bands at a very young age and kind of grew up here in Los Angeles and played all the Hollywood clubs with some bands in the 70s. And, and that's kind of where it was. And it's been a lifetime of music and writing and creativity for me, but I think, what my day gig is, I'm an airline pilot. I got into that at a young age as well. So that's really that's what I've been doing for a very long time as well. But I think music is who I am, and the flying part is what I do, and it's been a nice combination of the two.
It's interesting because I have a day job, and this is something that I do on the side. It almost seems like during this time period, it kind of puts more of an emphasis on something that really, really makes you happy. You really kind of gravitate and grab onto that. I know it's just when you go through extreme versions of life, I think that really does. Do you notice that more, that you're gravitating towards what's making you the most happy right now?
Well, yeah. What I do during the day is I play the piano, and I've been practicing a lot, and I'm just kind of working on, I'm always, I think I'm a perpetual student. I get that from my mom. She's still learning at 93 and taking classes. It was funny. I called her yesterday morning and I said, just to see how she's doing. And she said, can you call me in a couple hours? She goes, I'm taking a Zoom class. This is somebody who's 93. So I thought that was quite funny. But I've been playing the piano so much during these days, a lot of days, a lot of nights, and the days, the time just flies by. I've been working on my chops. I'm working on a lot of stuff, doing a little bit of writing, doing some recording, but I'm just trying to, always get better as an artist. Since I've been doing these projects that I've been doing, I've had the opportunity, and, I'm just so grateful to be working with these incredible musicians. And, I just feel that these folks are so good that I really have to up my game, so I've been working, I've been working hard on my chops, and I'm really enjoying it. I just like the whole process of getting better and listening to, great artists, Joe Sample, Oscar Peterson, Vince Guaraldi, people that I just love listening to, a lot of old standards, and I just really kind of getting into, some of the great tunes and trying to make some of that part of my musical repertoire. So from that standpoint, it's been great. I've really been enjoying this time from that standpoint.
What do you like the best about being a musician?
Well, I like I said, I think it's who I am. I think it really defines me as a person, and I think it makes me a better person just having that creative side. Obviously, I think there's some intellect. I'm intellectual as well, but I just think the musician side of me just makes me so much more rounded. I just think I look at things differently. I just being outside and just looking at the world and dealing with people. I just try to find the beauty in just about everything that's around me, and I think it's such a gift just to be able to sit down and pull something, just create some music out of nothing.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in California, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Paul for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.